I want to share with you a story, a true story. I made it up yesterday. I'm kidding. The story is actually located in the Gemara, Kiddushin, Daf Lamed Aleph. It brings down a story of a man by the name of Dama ben Natina from Ashkelon. Who is this man, Dama ben Natina from Ashkelon? The Gemara explains that if you want to know the classic example of what it means to respect your father and to bring honor to your mother, this is the man, because what he did succeeds any other story in history of anybody who ever respected the parents. Now, this is a very strong statement to make because we see many stories throughout the Gemara where people respected their parents to exceeding amount. For instance, we have a story in the Gemara where a mother came to her son. She took his wallet and she threw it into the waters, and he wasn't able to retrieve it, and yet he continued to respect his mother, and he continued to respect her the way he did before she even did this to him. We have another story, another place in the Gemara that tells us of a mother who came to her son while he was giving a class in front of hundreds of students, and she slapped him across the face and she spit at him, and she took her hands and he kissed her hands in front of everybody. And if you want to go to an extreme case, there's a story of a mother who took glass and she would throw it against the floor, and it would shatter, and she would walk on top of the glass. Now, what her son did, out of respect for his mother, was he put his hands under her feet just so that she doesn't get cut as she's walking. Obviously, this woman was not a healthy woman, but it just shows what extent it goes. What? Could be, I don't remember. But the Gemara is going out of its way to tell us all these stories, and then it says, if you want to know a real case of somebody who respected their mother or their father, this is the case. So let's hear the case. What exactly did this guy do that beats all these other cases? The Gemara tells us that during the times of the Beit HaMikdash, one of the items that was missing in the Beit HaMikdash was a certain gem that was a part of the Choshen, the breastplate of the Kohen Gadol. And they heard of a man who lived in Ashkelon, the city of Ashkelon, who possessed this, who had this gem. And they found his house, they found his address, they knocked on his door, he came out, and they asked him, we know that you have the gem. Can you give it to us? We're willing to give you an exuberant amount of money for your gem. The fellow said, I'm not giving it to you. They said, we're going to give you 10,000, 20,000, 30,000. Until they went up so high, they said, we're going to give you 60,000 golden coins. And some even say they went up to 80,000 golden coins. The fellow said, I'm not giving it to you no matter how much money you're willing to give me, because the gem is inside a vault, and the key to the vault is under my father's pillow. And I cannot disturb my father's sleep. So the rabbis right away backed up and they said, wow, this guy is this classic case. Well, look at how much money he's willing to forego for this amount, for the honor of his father, just not to disturb his sleep. Now, when this story took place, there's prosecuting angels in Shemaim. The Hiddah says, when this story took place, many times in heaven, by the way, when the Jews are always compared to the other nations. God always compares us, He always expects us to rise above the occasion. We're supposed to be a light unto other nations. Whenever He sees there's something something wrong with us, there's something's we're lacking than them, right away the prosecuting angels get up and they start talking against us. So one time the Gemara says, the prosecuting angels came to God and said, you see, by the Christians, they go to church, not one peep. Everyone's quiet, everyone has so much respect, so much honor to the temple. And then you look at the Jews, when they go to shul, when they go to synagogue, everyone's talking, people are grabbing coffee, people are grabbing tea. What kind of honor? For something so real, this is how they're treating it. And something so fake, look how much respect they're showing. Right away, the defending angels get up, and they say, you know what, they have a point, but we have something better. Because, you're right, how often do the Christians go to their church? Once a week. We go to shul 3 times a day. Eventually, the synagogue becomes our home. So it's very hard to stop talking, to grab a coffee here and there. There's another story, another place we see where the prosecuting angels got up. They said, you see, by the Ishmaelim, by the Arabs, they perform a brit milah, a circumcision, at the age of 13, and we perform it at 8 days old. So they say, look how much self-sacrifice they're willing to go. Just to go ahead and perform this mitzvah, to go ahead and serve God to such an extent. But the Jew, nobody asks the baby, nobody asks anybody any questions. They just take the baby and they right away perform the 1, 2, 3. They put some wine, some grape juice into his mouth. He falls asleep and he doesn't know anything about it. So the defending angels say, you're right, but you know how many times in history the Jews are willing to sacrifice everything for this mitzvah? Just a story that comes to mind, the Holocaust, how a lady, she was hiding her child, she gave birth, she didn't want anyone to know about it. And one morning, the Nazis came into the barracks earlier than usual, and they came up to her, they heard a crying baby, they came up to her and said, because you didn't tell us about this baby, we're going to kill it in front of you. She started screaming, someone give me a knife, someone give me a knife. And then one of the rabbis, who was one of her inmates, turned to the people around her and said, she's gone mad, nobody give her a knife. Only one person approached her with a knife, that was the Nazi himself. He said, you want a knife, here you go. She took the knife, she went on her knees, she performed the circumcision in front of everybody and their child. She said, you want the baby, here you go. Because this is the extent we're willing to go for such a mitzvah. We'll never see such self-sacrifice by the other nations. But when this story took place, the defending angels had nothing to say. The prosecuting angel said, look at this. This guy performed such a great mitzvah, such a great act of to forgo so much money for the respect of his parents. Do we see this case? In fact, the Gemara couldn't find one other case like this by the Jews. So right away, the defending angels had nothing to say to that. God said, I'll take care of this. The story goes exactly a year later, to this fellow was born the para aduma, the red heifer. And the rabbis, this guy was like a Judaica store, he had everything. The rabbis heard he had it, they came to him and said, okay, we need this item now. When they approached him and they told him, we want the red heifer, what did they tell him? He told him, I want the money, listen to this carefully. He told them, I want the money that I lost from the year before for respecting my father. Oh, right away, when he said these words, the defending angels had what to use against him and to show and to cast the light onto to the Jewish people. Think about it. What did he say? He said, give me back the money that I lost. Meaning, he regrets what he did. We do mitzvot on a constant basis. For us, it's not a loss. We do a mitzvah, we're proud of it. We know that even if we lost money as a result of it, even if in the end something went wrong, we know that I did it for Hashem, I did the right thing. Now, if another rabbi came, there are 7 interpretations how we could interpret to say that we're better than, we're more special than the goyim, as great as they are. Therefore, the Gemara is not coming to praise the goy; it's coming to praise us. If you learn Gemara enough, you'll know that if there's an example to be brought up, a positive example, it would always use a Jew as the example. Now, what did he say? Give me back the money that I lost from the year before. On Yom Kippur, we say the sins that we forget, God remembers, and the rabbis learn from here that the sins that we forget, God remembers. Because throughout the year we're doing many sins, Yom Kippur comes, we forgot the sins. But God says, I remember, I'm going to hold it against you. But then, again, God says, the sins that you remember, I forget. Because as long as you remember the sins, then that means you have hope. That means you're going to do teshuvah, you're going to repent. You know there's something wrong. And the rabbis say the same works vice versa. The same works by the mitzvot. The mitzvot that we forget, God says, I remember. I'm never going to forget the good deeds that you do. And then God says, the mitzvot that you remember, I forget. Why are you bragging the mitzvot? You came to this world for this purpose. If you're still bragging a year later that you did perform this mitzvah, this guy, obviously he did this mitzvah for honor. He wanted his name to be, broadcasted, to be be given a Nobel Prize for it. He probably made sure he got himself on New York Times for it. I respected my father, and he's still bragging about it a whole year later. That just shows how often he does a mitzvah. We do a mitzvah constantly, and therefore we're better and more spiritual than this fellow. And last but not least, usually God works measure for measure. If God gave him the red heifer, it must be usually God, he did something good, so God's going to reward him. Something has to do with the good that he did. Here, why did Hashem give him as a reward the para aduma? I once saw a beautiful explanation, and the understanding goes like this: that God is showing the prosecuting angels. You see, this guy, he was willing to forego so much money for a mitzvah that he understands. You see, the fact that he respected his parents, that's something logical. Your parents gave you life in this world, you got to do it. But the fact that we went ahead and we were willing to go and lose out on so much money for a mitzvah that we do not understand, that shows that we're much more better than this guy. And therefore the Gemara is now coming to tell us that this guy is better than the Jews, and we couldn't find a better example from the Jews, but rather show as great as they are, we're much better than them. Last but not least, I want to show you just last point. If you pay attention, the Moral says, pay attention to the guy's name. You see, everything is in a person's name. You want to know something about somebody? Look into their name. The guy's name was Dama ben Natina from Ashkelon. You know what the word Dama means? The Mehei Bam. You ever hear the words inside the Gemara? Dama means obligation. Whenever there's a case and they say he's obligated to pay, they say Dama, the Mehei Bam, he's obligated. His word, the name means obligation. Ben Natina. Natina comes from the word Natan. Natan means to give. What does that mean? he gives out of what's obligatory for him, what's an obligation. And then that means you see so much about him, his personality, just from his name itself. That means you could already go into his whole life and you could learn all these personalities about him, but just look into his name, you could already know he only does what's logical to him, what makes sense, what's an obligation. And finally, where is he from? From Ashkelon. Ashkelon comes from the word shakal. Shakal means to take, meaning he only does what's an obligation for him because he's taking. What is he taking? Honor, prestige. He wants respect. And therefore, just from his name, we could already tell what this guy is all about. I once saw that the reason the Jews, why we put the tefillin on the shaliyah, on the hand first, and then on the head, is because the hand represents action. First you got to do, and then you'll understand. We do things that doesn't necessarily make sense to us, because we understand. Rav Hirsch says, you know why the Jews go according to Saturday and the Goyim go according to Sunday? Because Saturday is the last day of the week. Sunday is the first day of the week. Yom Rishon is Sunday. And therefore, we wait till the end result. We have patience. Even if we don't understand something, we observe it, we keep it, and we understand that just like they're saying, seeing is believing, believing is seeing. Right now we're going to believe, eventually we're going to see. And therefore, they don't have patience. They have to have the result right now. Therefore, their day is Sunday. Last, I want to bring out is, we say in Korbanot, it says, En Kelokeinu, En Kadonenu. I'm sure you heard the song. And then after we're saying En Kelokeinu, there's no one like you, God, there's no one like, there's no one like our master, there's no one like our king. We say, Mi Kelokeinu, who is our God? Who is our king? The order is reversed. You should first ask the question and then answer it. Here we're first answering it. We're saying there's no one like God, there's no one like our king, and then we say, who's our king, who's God? You know why we first answer and then we ask? Because that's what Judaism is all about. First accept God is Hashem, everything, and then you can start asking questions. Once you accept, and then everything is going to start making sense to you, and then the puzzles are going to come together. And then finally, when the ultimate day of Mashiach will come, we're going to start realizing that everything all along did make sense, and we just had to subscribe our logic to Hashem. Thank you for listening. Good.